Previously on Trail Trash Garage.
What's behind the tarp? So, what we have here is a 1983 Goldwing 1100. Watching Facebook Marketplace. Wasn't even me, it was my father-in-law who was a terrible enabler. And he caught this ad for this guy at a barn full of wings. So basically, the guy said, I'll throw in an 82. An 82 with the title, the 83 without a title for my parts, and then a whole bunch of parts on the side. If I did want to do one up as a tourer, I've got good trunks. I forget how. Oh, yes, it is. Look at, holy cow! Look at that. We could do up a tourer, and yeah, no, maybe I will. I don't know. In Canada because a boot. Not a boot. Sorry. Hey, welcome back to Trail Trash Garage. We are working on the Goldwing, the other Goldwing, not the main Goldwing. So I did a lot of the stuff already. I didn't film a lot of it. A lot of it was just pulling the carbs, cleaning them. We've already got videos on that. So we've cleaned the carburetors. They were absolutely nasty. Just cleaned up. There's chrome peeling off. This, we obviously got to clean this. I've cleaned up the top here. There was all kinds of clear coat, polished aluminum, and then clear coat, and it just seemed like a good idea at the time, but when it peels, it's just a mess. Like, honestly, people. All right, so what's this get up? I got a spare tank here because this tank is full of nasty fuel. So I used to hand pump to pump a lot of it out, but I've got the petcock on reserve, and I got the fuel pump hooked up to an output, and I got gas coming in. So I don't know if this will feed gravity. If it doesn't feed gravity, then I'll have to hook this back up and just put a fuel filter in line. We've got a new one here somewhere, right here. So we'll just see what that's going to look like. So, but we're going to start it. We're going to see what's going on. And yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be done. There's no brakes on this thing. The throttle cables are pretty sticky. So I've got a spare set over there, so we may have to oil it. I've got some oil going on here. Like, I've got one of these oilers. These are junk, by the way. They don't really work that well, but we're giving it a try. I got an underwhelming battery there hooked up, and I had to steal the starter solenoid off of my wing. Could have taken the battery out too, but this is just a spare battery from the DRZ. It's not gonna have enough cranking amps. It's only got 9 volts now. It's the old one. But what we're going to be able to do with it is I'm going to hook the booster pack up to it. So it's basically just acting as a connection point for everything, and it won't actually have to carry the voltage. So we're going to try to pump out some of the old gas out of there with the fuel pump if the carbs will run off that auxiliary tank. If not, I'll probably still use the auxiliary tank, but we'll hook it up directly to the fuel pump, and then we'll have to just fill the tank full of good gas. What little crappy gas is in there left, we'll leave it. We'll fill it up with good gas and put a fuel filter on and run her. Let's see what we got. We got hurt stuff. We got lights. We'll charge this, and I'll bring you back when I'm done charging. Alright guys, Shop Dog's excited. Bentley, we excited? We got her going? Yeah? Alright. So I think that's it for now. I'm gonna let it warm up, and I think I'm gonna drop the oil and put some fresh oil in it. And then we gotta work on the brakes to get this going. And then once we got the brakes going, it's just cosmetic stuff. Then, I mean, yeah. So I think we're gonna have another bike on the road running. Well, hello, welcome back to Trail Trash Garage. It's been a pretty good summer. We've been busy mostly recording for the ADV channel, not so much garage stuff. Basically, you guys remember when we brought the other Goldwings home, the one that was all tore up and the other one that was in pieces. And then we had the other wing, so that was the twin of the blue wing when we started. So I combined all the parts. I've been picking away at it. I didn't know if anybody wanted to watch the whole thing. I haven't done a whole lot to it other than just kind of clean it up and just general maintenance stuff I'd already done on the blue wing, like brake cleanup and rebuilds, some wiring issues. I did swap the fairings around just because I wanted to put the best of the original paint pieces on this one, because the blue wing's never going to see that stuff again anyway. So, and where they were the same color, I just wanted to use the best of both and make one wing original, as much original as I can get it anyway, without spending money. and then the blue wing, of course, is custom. So the blue wing's not done. There's some things I want to do. There's I had to make a trip up to New Brunswick. So I actually threw on some vintage luggage. It's up here. It's actually made for I think it was made for the CB line. It was Honda line stuff. But I think it was made for the CB750, CB900 Customs. I'd already cut up the brackets to fit the Bonneville because I wanted to mount those on the Bonneville, which I did, and I used them for trips. But now the Bonneville's gone, I wanted to mount them up for the Goldwing. So I had to modify them again. I did it quick. I didn't want to film it because I did it really quick, and I just kind of booger weld stuff, and because I had one day to do it all before I was leaving for New Brunswick on my trip. So I just slapped them together. The racks are actually still on the blue wing, but they'll be coming off because those things are only going to be used for trips. And I may rework the racks a little bit. There's a couple of things I'm not crazy happy about, so clean up and welding and stuff like that. But for what it was strong. It worked. It was okay for my trip. So I guess today what I'm really kind of looking at is we need to do some stuff on the wing. So the other wing. I don't want to spend a lot of money on this. This is more of just like a, hey, do I want to flip this with the minimum amount of money or what? But this bike has been running really good. It cleaned up. It shined up really nice. Of course, this is the original tank on the blue wing because this was in better shape than the shelter that was here. It does have a little chipping there, and it does have that the brake master had leaked on that paint. But, being in the fairing, it's not that noticeable. Maybe I'll get a touch-up pen or something if I can find this paint. I think it'll clean up even better. I have one of the lids with the top racks for this. They do have like a like a horseshoe rack kind of here, a chrome rail. And I have one lid that's got one, but I'm missing the other lid. So we put both lids from the blue wing on. So, because they didn't have those horseshoes. You can find them still, and maybe I'll find a racker. That's a really great place to like strap down a tent. If you're going on a camping trip and you've got a tent that's just a little too long for the bags. I mean, you can always strap it across the top here, but you don't want to load this up too much. But that's a good place to anything long you can kind of strap there, or a fishing pole or something if you want. This is the actual fairing off the blue wing. The other one had the speaker system and the radio, all that. The radio doesn't work. The speakers, one speaker's not working. The speakers may actually get pulled over to this, and I may put a Bluetooth head unit in here. So, but there was some cutouts on that I didn't want to try to fix, and a few issues with that one. There was also some issues with this one too, but I've got those fixed, and they're all hidden. I didn't get into it. It was a plastic fix job. You guys have seen that on the channel before. So the other thing is all these bags that got switched off from the blue wing to this wing. All of these key tumblers needed to be changed so that I didn't have to change the ignition. So they're all keyed to this ignition key, which is key. See what I did there? So I did move this over here. This is a factory accessory for the Interstate, and it came with you had a voltmeter. The guy had a clock in here that was not working, and I didn't want to get it. I didn't want to figure out how it was wired up. It had a white face, and so I actually have an Amazon clock coming for this space that should have. It's got a black face, and we should be able to wire it in. But the voltmeter is pretty handy. Now, this did have a charging issue, and somebody had jacked into the grounds on the regulated rectifier. So I had a spare regular rectifier that came with the 82 bike, but there definitely is a fuel delivery issue. I finally opened up the tank and looked in. I thought I could get away with seafoam, but the whole bottom of the tank is completely corroded. And what happens is when it gets down to the point where you need to flick over to reserve, the fuel tap on reserve is not working. Now, the Goldwing uses a fuel pump. There's not really any sort of it's just a tube down the bottom of the tank with a screen filter to filter out some, very larger particulate. And then it has the inline fuel filter that runs between the fuel petcock and the fuel pump. And that's actually changed that, and the new one's actually not too bad. So it's not picking up any of this junk from the bottom of the tank at present, but the tube for the reserve is plugged. So it's not getting, when you switch it to reserve, it doesn't get anything. So it's not picking up new particulate in the fuel filter. So whatever it is on the bottom of the tank, which looks like scale and rust, is actually pretty solid there. It's not, I don't think it's going anywhere. It's not getting into the fuel system on the regular when the fuel tap is just on. But you just run out of fuel, and so you got to kind of set the odometer and trip meter, I guess, and then you start to run out way before you should, and then you can't switch it over to reserve to get you to the gas station. So it left me stranded, and I had to get my wife to come with a fuel can. The fuel sender was not working at all. I mean, yeah, I guess you can see that, right? Here. So she's pretty bad in there. The reserve, you can kind of see the tube and the filter right there up in the upper right hand corner of the screen. You can see the filter for the regular pickup, and the reserve pickup is way back in underneath here, because this tank actually comes all the way back here. So it's in there. So trust me, it's there, and it must be clogged because there's no fuel flow at all when it's on the reserve feature. Now I have a spare tank here, and as you can see, I got it cleaned up and it's full of oil. And there you can see the reserve right there. See, there it is. Now there is some junk in the bottom of this tank, but it doesn't seem to be too bad. The fuel reserve tap, I'm going to blow some air through it to make sure that it's okay. But I mean, up here, it's just way at the back that you've got. It's pretty clean in there. So I think this is off the 82. We're gonna use this tank. Yeah, you can kind of see. We're gonna use this tank. We'll probably rinse it out again with vinegar, re-oil it so it doesn't flash rust, clean up the outside, paint it, and we'll get this tank ready to go. In order to get this tank out of the bike, this whole ass end of the bike has to come off, and the tank has to go out this way. It's got to go out through the back right above the swing arm. So the tire's got to come out. Now, we do need to replace that tire anyway. I did get it to pass inspection, but I think the guy just missed the cracks in the sidewall. There's quite a bit of tread left on it, but I just don't feel comfortable running a tire with sidewall cracks. So the timing belts on this bike have already been changed. The previous owner was really nice enough to actually print a label for it to tell us exactly when the oil change and the timing belts and stuff, maintenance was done to it. And they put it inside one of the fairing pockets here, right in there. And that's a really handy thing, or to write it in underneath the timing covers. If you remember, the chrome covers on this engine were all peeling. So we went ahead down to the spare 82 bike and we robbed the aluminum covers. Now we still have the chrome covers on this, and that one doesn't look too bad. But if you look in here, you'll see, if there's enough light, that it's all peeling. So I've got the timing belt covers off that bike. They're just raw aluminum. There's no aftermarket fancy upgrades on them. So we're going to clean those up and polish them up and then put them on this bike. You can't, that's something to note, I guess, on these tanks. Because of those tubes and screens, you can't use cream coat or red coat or whatever. You can't coat these tanks because it'll just clog up those screens and those tubes. And that's just a unique thing with these Goldwing tanks that you can't do. So you've got to just get them really as clean as you can. Just put fuel in them and run your fuel filter and keep changing that for a while until the tank kind of gets cleaned out a little bit. I think a lot of that stuff is never really going to come off. And again, I can't put chain in there or ball bearings or anything like that because you don't want those mesh screens destroyed. You don't want the tubes destroyed. You got to keep them, or you're going to lose everything in your tank. Like you'd have to try to, I don't know what you have to do with the petcock, because obviously it's not on the side. It's not a gravity feed system. It's up here, right? So without those tubes, the fuel pump's never going to get fuel off the back bottom of this tank. So it needs those tubes to maintain pressure to get the fuel out, because if it's just sucking here, you're gonna suck your fuel down to here, and then you're done, right? So the bottom third of the tank is useless. So you can't just beat that stuff up. So I'm gonna clean up the outside. We'll get a coat of satin black on it and try to preserve the labels if I can. Welcome back to Trail Trash Garage. Summer's fleeting, fall's here, and some big changes around the garage. We got a second Goldwing, as anybody watched the last videos in the spring, and I didn't think I was going to do it. I thought I was going to set it aside, but then I kind of got into it, and I didn't film a lot of it because we'd already just did a Goldwing on the channel, and we weren't doing anything to this one really to customize it. I was just bringing it back. I used all the good, I don't know what color was that, royal brown, metallic brown, or something like that. Well, I looked up the color code anyway. It was something like that for a 1983 Interstate. So I got that one back all together and got it running pretty good. Somebody was interested in it and messaged me about it. I wasn't sure I wanted to sell it. I was going to keep the custom wing and the regular wing, and I agonized over this, but he made me an offer. He had something up for trade. He had something up on Kijiji for sale for a bit, and I could not resist. And I'll introduce that. That'll be the next project I think I'll film, or the KZ project. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do next. So, yeah, Goldwing GL1100. The 82 is gone. That's the full dresser. So we said goodbye to that Friday last week. And hopefully it went to a new home, because we are now saying hi to this. I know we're in Canada because...
A boot! Not a boot. Sorry.